in Leadership Challenge Show, we seek to address issues of leadership, understand issues of leadership, and try to address issues of leadership. So it is all about leadership, leadership, leadership. And if you are a leader, I believe this is a good time to interrogate your leadership. It is not enough to say, I am leading. Leadership is a function. And if you are not functioning as a leader, because a leader is a person that knows where people should be and guides them to that desired goal. And unless you are moving people from an undesired place to a desired place, then we cannot say leadership is happening. Leadership is about leading people to their desired goals, or what we call goals of beneficial permanence. They're very important things. And many people have found themselves in leadership positions, but they got confused. And I believe we talked about that in our previous conversation. Well, today we want to talk on the issue of systemic failure. And because we know if there is systemic failure, nothing in that institution, nothing in that country, nothing in that church, nothing in that family will work, because it is systemic. And this is the discussion we have today. Sit back. We want to hear your feedback. Of course, our number is appearing on the screen, and I will be, of course, reading that number to you shortly, but it is there on your screen, 0740-653-453. So if you want to say something or comment, it is 0740-653-453. Reverend Alan Kefa is with us in our conversation today on systemic failure. Alan, karibu sana.
Asante, thanks for having me today.
Thank you for coming. And we begin right away. What is systemic failure?
Wow, that is a big word. And I think definitions are critical. I would take one step back so that we come to defining systemic failure.
Yes.
Systems are as good as the people running them.
Say that again.
Systems are as good as the people running the systems.
That's profound.
It is just like culture.
Uh-huh.
There is no good or bad culture, because culture is how we do our things.
Okay.
And an organization exists for two reasons. Number one, either because of they are meeting the needs of their stakeholders, or they have a mandate that they are executing.
Okay.
And so to be able to attain that, we create systems.
Yes.
We create structures.
Okay.
We create strategies.
Okay.
And so there are two pathways that if an organization is not alive to, that is where systemic failure comes from.
Okay.
Number one, there is strategy.
Okay.
Strategy is what guides an institution or an organization or a family, or if you have a vision, then you need strategy. Is simply how we are getting from where we are to where we want to go. So strategy is the guiding path of any institution. However, there is a second pathway which is called culture. Culture is the driving pathway of an institution. And so you can have an excellent strategy, but if you have a bad culture, this strategy remains something that you have put down on paper, but how you do your things, you end up undermining or shooting yourself in the foot. And that is how it works also with systemic failure, where we have created certain things that we are saying, this is how we will do our things. A system is actually a structural interlink, where you will link departments, we link institutions, we link our strategy. You know, you create a conveyor belt, and then you say from here we go there, from there we go there. But then the driving force, which I call culture, if that is wrong, then you will end up with a systemic failure. You will end up with a system that is there, but it does not work.
So when we use the word systemic, we are meaning that which affects the whole system.
That which affects the whole system. Like, for example, a failed state. That's why we normally say the buck is with the leader. It comes back to the leader. A failed state is simply a leader who cannot operate the systems that have been set in place for him to run the institution or the government.
And that system involves the body, the organization, or a whole component, the whole part of an individual institution or a nation.
Let's even use a simpler illustration.
Yes.
When a body collapses, a human body collapses, it's actually systemic failure.
Okay.
When the heart is not working, the liver is not working, and all that's a simpler illustration of a systemic failure, where what is in place to help the whole body move forward is not doing its work in the way that it should. That system is failed. And so the net effect of that is then you are not able to carry out your vision, you're not able to carry out your mandate, you're not able to do what you need to do. And in institutions and government, more often than not, systemic failure leads to a toxic environment. Where people are frustrated. People they are trying to move forward, they can't move forward. They're trying to do certain things they can't do because the system does not support what they envision to do.
So I feel like there is a need to connect, because you say a system is as good as the operators of the system.
There you go.
And I feel like it's important to connect the top to the bottom in talking about systemic failure and try to bring it more clearly.
Let me show you a structure.
Yes.
Every organization has 3 levels.
Okay.
If you look at any organogram in any organization, you will see 3 levels. The first level of any organization is the corporate level of an organization.
Corporate level.
The corporate level is in charge of vision. It's in charge of strategic direction. It's in charge of where the organization is going. Underneath the corporate level, there is the business level of the organization, where the managers sit. They look at the day-to-day. The corporate level looks at the long-term. The business level look at the short-term. Then beneath that, there is what is called the functional level of the organization, where you have the running of if it was in an industry, these are the workers in the workshop. That's the functional level of organization. That structure is very important.
So at the top is the place where now the vision or the vision of the organization is. The lower level is where that vision is operationalized. And the third level is where now it is like the mission. It's like implemented. It is actualized at the lowest level.
Now,
so how does that, if we are talking about systemic failure, how does the top affect the bottom? How is the bottom impacted by the top?
That is where I was going. At the bottom level, there is the bottom level normally what they do is written in manuals. in instructions. You know, it is called explicit knowledge.
Okay.
It is written down, and anybody who walks into a situation and they are given an operational manual, they will know how to operate the machines, they will know how to procure, they will know how to do this and that. At the top is where we are saying that is where we feel we should be going, and you know, we project, we dream, we plan it. It is called tacit knowledge, one that cannot be codified. Because if I told you to codify the image for Redeemed Gospel Buruburu, there would be a statement, but the life of that vision is actually inside the vision bearer and the leadership thereof. And then this middle part of the organization is where actually problems come from.
Okay.
That is where the failure of any organization comes from, because what lies there is called implicit knowledge. Implicit knowledge simply means what is tacit, what cannot be codified, is interpreted and translated into systems and structures, such that then the work of the management level of any institution, they are supposed to pick on the vision, even if it is not clear, because vision is more lived out, it is more nuanced, it is more, for lack of a better term, it is more, you know, it's nuance. There's a nuance that this is where we are going. And so the implicit knowledge, the managers who work in between are the people who should say, this is the heart of our leader. Let us create a system around this. Allow me to use a biblical example, if you'll allow me. During the battle in the time of Moses, there was something that gives us those three levels in a very good way. Joshua was battling with people on the ground. Moses was at the top of the hill, lifting up his hands. And so there's a very interesting thing that happens there, that as long as Moses' hands were lifted, Joshua was winning the battle. All right? And so Joshua represents the people on the ground on that structure. Moses represents the person on top of the corporate ladder.
Yes.
Now, besides Moses, there was and Aaron and those people who were standing next to him. What they did was that when Moses got tired, they lifted his hands.
Okay.
But also them lifting Moses' hands, they also got tired. And so whichever way you look at it, at some point there would be tiredness and the hands would be put down. So these men came together and they built a physical structure to sustain a spiritual reality.
Yes.
Because for Moses' hands to stay up, they put a structure that would keep his hands up. If you can see that picture, then you will understand how systems work. Because the structure that Aaron and the people who were with Moses on top of the mountain, they put a structure that even if Moses' hands got tired, they would still remain up, because there was a structure supporting his hands up there. That is the picture of how systems work, such that what is tacit, what cannot be codified, is supported by systems and structures that you sustain. You remain. Moses remained in that position, tired or not tired, but because the structure that was put around him made it possible for the hands to stay up. Now, that is how systems work, because if for example, if Aaron and were not able to do what they needed to do, Moses' hands would not stay up. And so when we create structures, the connection between the top, the corporate level and the functional level of the business is the corporate and the functional is the business level of the business. The people in between, the corporate and the functional level of an organization are those the ones who cause a structure to be sustained or to collapse.
Okay,
that's where the link is.
Let's now, it cannot just remain as a theory. because we are living a practical life.
There you go.
We are in a real country. And in Kenya, we have the national government and we have the county government. And it is important now you describe the structure like using the national government. Because we have said there are 3 levels, and we are talking about a system, and we are trying to understand what is a systemic failure and how does it impact the whole institution. But describe the system and the structure, how it is like we have described it.
You see, in this nation, we have a constitution that we are saying we are living by this constitution.
Okay.
This is what guides us. Every policy, every code that is written in this nation draws from the constitution. If it is not from the constitution, it is actually illegal.
Yeah.
However, how do we interpret that to come to a place where I'll use a very practical example again.
Yeah.
When somebody vying for a public office stands before the people, and he begins telling them, "I will build your roads. I will build roads. I will give you water. I will do this. I will do that." Clearly, there's a very big disconnect in that conversation, because it is stipulated in the Constitution that it is the responsibility of the government to give us good roads, to give schools to our children, to give us good health facilities, to give us everything that we need. And so when an electorate, we go and elect somebody because he says he's going to give us roads, already we have missed the brief by a mile. Because we do not know what their responsibility is, we do not know what is expected of them, and so we don't even know what to ask from them.
Okay.
For example, the last member of parliament, I'm sure he made some promises, but do we know if that is his mandate? Okay. Because remember, at the beginning of this conversation, I said an organization will only be in existence because it is meeting the stakeholder needs, or it is meeting its legal mandate.
Okay.
When we elect a representative, we are giving them a mandate. Now, where we fail as a nation is we don't describe the mandate of the leaders we elect. We don't describe in our constitution, it's very clear. When we elect cabinet secretaries, they are not politicians. So their mandate has nothing to do with politics. But you and I know these people are always on the road politicking. Okay. And so that system will collapse because whatever is being made on the roadside does not have a legal basis. It does not have a legal backing. And so we have a nation that is, there's a term that was used in the last election when there was a petition. There's a term that was used called hot air. We have a lot of hot air because people who should be running the systems are busy running around politicking, working up emotions instead of connecting the wheels to the road. The wheels are not on the road. The structures are not working. The systems are not working because the person who should be giving us the technical advice, the person who should be giving us what is required, they are not, because they are doing what is not there. So there comes the failure.
Okay. So now the 3 levels, like now in the government of Kenya, in the nation of Kenya. We have the decision makers.
That's the corporate level of this nation.
We have the managers who operationalize those decisions. That is where now.
Those are now the cabinet secretaries.
And the PSs.
And the PSs.
And then now we go down now to...
We go now to the functional level.
Foot soldiers.
Those are the foot soldiers, the people who now interface with the population.
So when we talk about systemic failure, it will then mean the bottom and the top,
they are not connecting.
They are not connecting, and the flow of information and instruction may not be working. And there must, as much as the top, the management is giving instructions downwards, the people up there must also be hearing what is coming from the bottom coming up. So that is the kind of a thing we are here to describe, so that now we can pin Is there a systemic failure? And how are systemic failures addressed? But first of all, let's understand the flaw.
The flaw.
Yes.
Now, you remember a statement that used to be said years back, yeah? This used to be applied a lot to the second president. Used to say, President Moi ni mzuri, but the people around him are bad people. That is a clear admission of a systemic failure.
Okay.
Because if the flow is to come from the top and arrive at the bottom, the most important thing here is alignment.
Okay.
Where there is no alignment, there will be leakage.
Okay.
Where there is no alignment, there will be misappropriation.
All right.
And how does alignment come into place? And our current constitution is one of the most progressive constitutions that we have, because it addresses the issues of alignment, where there are organs that are supposed to make decisions, but there are organs that are supposed to implement, and then there are organs that are supposed to give oversight. But you see, when we politicize systems, for example, that is where our failure gets an entry point, because then now he who pays the piper calls the tune. If we will employ people because of political loyalty, for example, if we will get people into public office because they align with a certain party, if we get people into even management, for example, because we are rewarding them, what we end up with cronies. And cronyism is one of the sickness of systemic failure. Okay. Because if you are my friend, then how do I call you out?
Okay.
Then the king will end up dancing naked. I'm sure you've heard of the story of the king who walked naked because there was nobody to tell him that he was naked.
Yes.
And because we have people who are our cronies, we end up not having people who can call out the king when he's not doing what he needs to do. There are some voices in this nation, of course they go to the extreme, but I feel those voices, they play a very key role by calling out issues. And so when there is misalignment, and misalignment simply means, if you've seen the track race, the track race where those small vehicles, those racing cars, they're very tiny cars that race at speeds of like 300 kilometers per hour. They never collide for a simple reason that each one keeps its track.
Okay.
And so when we get politicians into positions that need technocrats, they'll be drawn to the political field. They'll want to go to the campaign track.
Okay.
They'll want to show where their loyalty aligns.
Okay.
And we have seen even people being threatened. We've seen the judiciary being threatened because they did not align. We have seen other very constitutional institutions that are being threatened, or they are being denied budgets, or they are being told they will not do this or they will not do that, simply because there is no alignment. Yet there is a legal mandate that they have, that if they don't have the prerequisite budgets, if they don't have the authority, if they don't have the discretion, then they will not be able to do their office in the way that they need to do.
So you talked about that classic example of the Moi's government, that was the second president of the Republic of Kenya, that people said Moi is good, but the people around him are not good people. You wanted to use that as an example of showing systemic failure. And is it, what do you call it when the decision makers make decision and push it down or cascade it down, and the information is either distorted or does not reach? How can you describe that as?
Information is power is a statement that is half-baked. Because information that is used is where power comes from.
Okay.
Information that is not used is not powerful. It's like data. Data has no meaning until it is processed to become information.
All right.
You know, and even information, you don't make the decisions based on information. You make information based on, when you process information, it becomes knowledge. Okay. Then you apply it.
All right.
It is in the same way where let's go back to that example of the former president.
Yes.
His role is a unifier of the nation.
Okay.
And so his role, he should be overarching. He should be everybody's president.
Yes.
He should work with everybody. Now, he has all these compartments called ministries. He has these compartments called departments where the health department should be, just like he is overarching over the nation, the health should be over the nation. But you and I know, Kenya, over 50 years, there are some regions that have never received development simply because of how they vote. There are some regions that have never, you know, there's a political conversion that is going on right now, and I'm wondering, where do these Kenyans live?
Okay.
People are celebrating that they are in government. And being in government, what is being in government? How does that affect the price of sugarcane in the marketplace? Okay. If we have my tribesman as a cabinet secretary or as somebody else, it simply means then our lenses, the way we look at our government is, having somebody in government means I will get political favor. That is a systemic failure, because the role of that person in government is not his village. Okay. It is not his tribesmen, it is the nation. And you see, the president has these compartments that are his, where when we are talking roads, then roads should be everywhere. When we are talking health, health should be everywhere. It is immoral for certain regions to be rewarded because they voted in a certain way, or because we want them to vote in a certain way. Like, for example, in the last few months, all of a sudden, and this, I may be digging a hole here, all of a sudden development is now moving towards central, simply because we are near a voting season. You know, those narratives, we need to kill them.
And are we able to say, why don't we look at this fact that the president of a nation, and even so to speak about a governor, the systems of a nation revolves around the president, and the president is chosen because of his vision for the country.
There you go.
As we are talking about system, can we pin that as the correct understanding and the correct position, that the system should be revolving around him because he's the one who came and sold a vision to us about the country?
Let me show you how the system works.
Okay.
When we elect a president, according to the constitution, we are saying we should be having a president going for 2 terms.
Okay.
According to the constitution. However, there is a mid-term where after 5 years, let us go back to the election.
Okay.
That is an evaluation. It is an evaluation where we're saying by default, we have gone through our legal, and looked at our culture and looked at our history, and we realize if we give somebody consistently 10 years of governing a nation, we can move from point A to point B. However, we must evaluate you at the middle here. And you see, where our challenge is, and where the developing nations have been able to overcome, there is what is called, there are certain national values that remain constant, that do not change. Okay. So every vision by every incoming president should be aligning to these national values. We made a very good attempt by Vision 2030, where we said, within the next, that time we had like 20 years. We said within the next 20 years, we want to move from here to there. That's where we are hearing these conversations about Singapore and all that. It's where we are saying we want to progress up to that level. Okay. Now, here's the problem. Every president, to the man, they never told us how their 10 years would move us closer to Vision 2030. Okay. They were managing their current realities. Okay. The first term is to make sure you are re-elected. The second term is to get as much as possible so that you can live
when you exit,
happily ever after. As possible. And so we never made any effort to move towards what, as a nation, we had said that is where we want to go.
And that is the vision of the nation.
That is the vision of the nation. And so the ideal situation should be, and I'll show you how the system works. The idea of the nation should be, we want to go there in the next 50 years. In my 10 years, I will move us from here to 20% of that journey. Now, within that 10 years, every other person who works under you should be saying, within my 5 years, this is what I will do to help accomplish this goal that you have for us for the next 10 years.
Yes.
And so if we are not working towards a larger picture, there's a statement I use when I'm teaching on leadership. I normally say any leader who loses sight of the ultimate becomes a captive of the immediate. And so every other day we are managing a crisis.
Okay.
Every other day we are, do you know one of the biggest failures in this nation is electioneering? Because if the week after elections, we get into electioneering. We begin campaigning, we begin talking politics, we begin doing this. And so that by the time the 5 years have ended, all the president has done is to preserve his next term as opposed to move the nation forward.
Okay.
And that cascades now to the lieutenants around him, the cabinet. The cabinet is also in survival mode. The below that, the cabinet secretaries and all that, they are all in survival mode because our wiring is I must get re-elected. And it's only, I can mention a few people like the Mudauras of this world who are so within the system that even when a president came in, they felt I cannot do without this person. But look at the people we have thrown aside because they don't align. Because this person is not affiliated with me politically, then we throw them aside and we lose the larger interest of the nation. Remember, in my opening remarks, I said any institution survives because it takes care of its stakeholders' needs. We are stakeholders in these nations. And so we should be able to know what is my stake. If I'm a stakeholder, what is my stake? Because when we understand our stakes, when we understand what we are about, then we know how to make demands on the people we put into office. Because if we begin putting pressure upwards, you have heard this thing about the ground, ground iko tofauti. It is simply when stakeholders begin to make demands. And so if we begin to make demands so that we put pressure on the leaders above us, and everybody is doing that, they will put pressure on the leaders above them.
Okay.
And those ones will put pressure on the leaders above them. And you will realize that that tension of top down and bottom up, there should be attention because it's not one way, it's both and.
Okay, remember the topic of today is understanding systemic failure and how systemic failures affect a nation, an institution, or even a county or even a church. And are we right to say like taking the example of a nation, that the president is like the owner of the system? Are we
custodian.
Right to say that?
He's a custodian.
Because he's a national vision, but he is the man who is developing systems to make sure goals are achieved.
I wouldn't use the word owner. I would say he's a steward. Because he's not going to be there forever.
Or he's responsible.
He's responsible. Okay. He's answerable. But we have to make a choice. Is he our? It's not like a kingdom where the king owns and does everything. It is a democracy where we elect you, and if you don't do what we want you to do, 5 years down the line,
but the moment
we
you're
send you
given
home.
that seat, you carry a lot of responsibility over the nation.
There you go. And so we must make them accountable.
Yeah.
We must make them accountable.
So if systems are not working, should we look back to like the top man there? If it is a county, the governor. If it is the nation, the president. If it is the church, the senior pastor. If it's the university, chancellor.
There you go.
Are we supposed to look at him as, if systems are not working, there is something the leader is not doing?
It is always the leader. It is always leader. He's the one who has the key to the system. Because if he doesn't turn the key, the system will not work.
Okay.
Remember the two pathways. Let's not lose sight of that. Our strategy is our guiding path, but our culture is a driving path.
Okay.
So if we have a wrong culture, this strategy will remain on paper. Kenya has the most progressive constitution, I think, of the developing nations.
Okay.
But honestly, look at our corruption index. Look at what is happening within our nation. It's simply because our culture does not support our strategy.
Okay.
And so our culture is not embedded into our constitution, or the other way around. so that then we are Kenyans. In fact, we like saying that. These days online, we normally say Kenya Sihami, Nini, we are Kenyans, because we have accepted mediocrity, we have accepted bad manners, we have accepted things that are not acceptable socially, and say it is okay because we are Kenyans. That's why we have something called African time. African time is not a scientific thing. You can't qualify African time. Being late is being late, whether you are in Africa or in the moon.
Yes, finish.
So
yes.
we can't institutionalize things that are not right.
Okay, let's look again. Because we are pursuing leadership, and this is a leadership conversation, and we want to understand this thing called systemic failure.
There you go.
Should the leader sit at ease when systems are failing? Because I see a lot of leaders just sitting in the office to put out fires instead of making sure the system is complete and working.
In developed nations, you've seen officials leave office because one of two things. Sometimes, more often than not, it's not even the person that committed the mistake.
Okay.
You find in my department there was loss of money. By default, that person should leave office. You remember the story of I will not leave the office until I die. The time when there was an agitation for the finance minister to leave.
Yeah.
And you remember the language and the body language and the posturing and all that.
Yes.
It is because this person is not taking responsibility for his failure to be the steward of the system.
Okay.
The system is not working in the way that they should, and at that time it was we used to have members of parliament. It was the highest office. There was this gentleman called Boni Kalwale, and he was saying, "No, you have failed." And there was that famous Kimunya must go. It was because the problem was not Kimunya. The problem was the system was failing, but the person who is in charge of that failure, he was aligning. He was probably not doing what he should have done. He's not calling out what should be called out.
Okay.
And if you look at that situation carefully, you would be deceived to think it was just about Kimunya. That was not an attack on Kimunya. It was an attack of the person who appointed Kimunya. That person had failed to call out his official.
Okay.
And so, because we can't reach you, we will attack your person here. When you see.
So chasing that man is like
it was sending a signal.
Yes.
You gave us the wrong person,
or maybe you are failing, as a leader. Okay, so the leader should never sit pretty and at ease when systems are not working as they are supposed to be.
He should not.
I think a national leader or a top leader in an institution must be guided by one or two things that help him to know, am I on track or I am not on track? And I tend to believe like the national vision, the vision of the country, is key in the top leader in helping the leader understand we may not be on the right path. But also at the same time, I think also in Kenya there's a very famous word that is called the ground. The ground. The ground. Mambo ni tofauti, mambo kwa ground. Yes, you see, I think you have heard
I know about the ground.
So I feel like maybe sometimes systems fail because either the leader is not listening to the ground or the leader is not referring to the national vision. And let me hear you what you say about
I like what you have said.
Yes.
Because again, a system will fail when the leader listens too much to the ground.
It will also fail.
It will also fail. Because the reason why we put you there as a leader is to have a broader vision. Because the ground is normally about we have not eaten, we don't have a good road, we don't have that.
Yeah.
However, when this leader, we take them to a senate,
Yeah.
to an august house, where they can make decisions, where they can give direction, to collectively, their reference point is the national vision.
Yes.
Such that the nation should not collapse because in Makadara we didn't fix one pothole.
Okay.
That person who is representing us should be sitting in that Senate and saying, for us to achieve this larger goal, let us take care of the small things. Because if you take care of the small things, the big things will run. In nations where there is peace and stability, you will notice one common denominator. It is that the citizens' needs have been taken care of. We should move away from the craziness that the member of parliament is the one, or the MCA or whoever is the one who should put food on my table.
Okay.
That is your responsibility. Because when we have that, and you see that now that is coming to culture.
Yeah.
Because if everybody would wake up in the morning and know that my responsibility is to take care of the school fees of my children, then we would not have people lining up in the MP's office. Again, this I may be digging a hole. Did you know that even the issue of bursaries and CDF, they sound really good, they sound like they're really helpful, but it is first aid.
Okay.
It is first aid. What is the end game? Because you cannot sustain an economy with handouts.
Okay.
It is not possible. So we must fix the educational system so that we don't need bursaries.
Okay.
We must fix the health system so that you don't need fundraisers. We must fix all these things so that the Messiah syndrome of when the member of these days in most areas when there's a funeral, for example, there is always this question: does the member of parliament know? Does the MCN, what does he have to do with the funeral?
With the funeral.
It is because the system is already crashed to a point where we have the Messiah syndrome is what is driving us. So that then when we want to bury somebody, the member of parliament must come and give us money. When we want to do this, when we want to send our children to study, which will benefit us, not him, we want the member of parliament to come and give us this. We want so-and-so to come and give us that. And at the end of the day, we end up with an economy that is relying on handouts as opposed to fixing the issues. Okay. Because if we all stopped taking, again, I'm digging a hole here. I'm wondering which is cheaper. Look at the bursaries that we have given out for the last, let's give it 10 years. 10 years. How much can that go towards fixing the education system? Yeah. So like I said, if we lose sight of the ultimate, the big picture, we'll be captives of next week. Yeah. We'll be captives of my next meal. But if we say, let us survive for now. Okay. Let us reduce the salary of the members of parliament and fix education. We'll be helping that member of parliament because he doesn't have to give handouts. Like I said, I'm digging a hole. We may fix it into the constitution and say it is okay to give bursaries. We may fix it into the constitution and say it's okay to have fundraisers. But the truth of the matter is, if you want to understand a culture, look at the language. Things like affirmative action, they sound very good. Yeah. But that language simply means I am looking at the developed nations. They don't have affirmative action. Yeah. So why is it that we want affirmative action? It's because in our language, we say it is okay to give people money because they are this or that. But you see, if you look at it carefully, the legality of that is suspect. Yeah. The legality of that is suspect.
All right. I think we must try to cover as much as possible this morning. And we are trying to understand systemic failure when we talk about systemic failure and how it impacts a nation and institution and accounting. We need to look a little bit of the enemies or the things that really cause systemic failure. And I think we may need to mention one or two things. And when we talk about the leader leading a nation, he does not just lead a nation for himself. One of the things we were told when we were beginning a television station, we were told we should never broadcast broadcast what we like, because we should broadcast what the people like.
There you go.
Because the TV is for the people
There
to
you go.
watch. And many times I tend to believe like systemic failure happens because the man at the helm is doing things for his own interest
themselves.
rather than the national vision. Whether it could be the county, or it could be a church, or it could be a university, or an institution, or even a company, a corporate. So let's look at these things that break actually systems.
My first statement when we began this conversation, I said,
yes,
a system is as good as the person running the
it.
system.
Okay.
There are 5 core things that if a leader does not have, the system will crash.
Okay.
Number 1, competence. Why did we elect our member of parliament or our governor or whoever? Okay. Did we check his competence?
Okay.
Because if this person is not competent, it doesn't matter how much we celebrate them, it doesn't matter what we do, they will fail.
Okay.
Number 2, character. Leadership is about character. If leaders don't have the correct character, we will crash. They will steal our money. They will do the wrong things. They will look out for their self-interest, like we are saying here now, that somebody goes into office because, and the last time I was here, we were saying, if you look at the amounts of money people spend to get into public office, it stops being a public office. They have bought that thing and they have to recover their investments.
Yeah.
So there is competence. There is character. And you see, the person who can afford to pay his way through a campaign, if that is the only measurement, we are missing out. Because do we even track and know where he got that money from in the first place? There's a very funny story that happened in one of the wards. I don't want to mention it because most people may know. Those who know the story will understand if they are from the viewers. There was a campaign in one of the wards in Nairobi.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Near you, actually, it's in your neighborhood.
Yes.
Somebody from this party was afraid of a strong candidate from this other party. But because they were in government, they sponsored a weaker candidate from the other party. Just a young man, and they sponsored them. So this young man won the party primaries.
Yes.
When now it came to the election, the young man kept going there. You are the one who put me here. I don't have the money to campaign. So he funded the campaign for this young man and his own campaign. Guess what happened at the end of the day? This man who was funding was defeated by the other young man. And he was a very senior person in government. I will share with you the story with details because we don't want to mention names. You see, that's a failed system, honestly.
Yeah.
Because we are now investing in personal interest as opposed to the interest of the population.
So really a personal interest at leadership level where you have responsibility, personal interest is a great enemy of the system.
I'm still going down my list.
Yes,
I've said the number 1 is competence.
Yes.
Number 2 is character. The third thing is capacity. You can have the competence and don't have capacity. Do you have the capacity for the role that you are looking for? Can you be able to actually sustain it? So if we were able to have this checklist embedded in our for example, the leadership requirement.
Yes.
How do we do this? And there's a way of doing it. I was working for a church institution actually a few years back, where we used to invite the people who are vying and give them 15 minutes in a Sunday and say, we want to hear what you want to do. And we would get 3 or 4 of them, not a debate, but just tell us what you want to do for us so that we can make informed decisions. Because the things you say in the street there are lies. Tell us the truth. And we would have somebody who is moderating, and they would ask key questions. Just 15 minutes. But you see, if you do that consistently over time, what you're doing to the congregation is you're helping them making informed decisions, as opposed to me standing in front of my church and telling people, vote with your conscience. My conscience does not think. So
Yes.
it is important that I allow people to make informed decisions. And so when you do such, you are able to check capacity, you're able to check competence, you're able to check character. The other thing you need to check is even chemistry. How does this person get along with other people? How does he get along with other people? Is he quarrelsome? Is he aloof? Is he somebody who is always withdrawn? That is a key component of leadership. I don't know which county it was. There was somebody who had some money, sponsored the campaign, and he was never in Kenya. And I remember there was even the county government was saying he was either a governor or a deputy governor. The county government wanted to impeach him because he was never in the country. You know, this person, he's not relevant to us if we cannot access him, we can't see him, we can't touch him. That's a marking scheme. Because if we have leadership that we can't vouch for their competence, their character, their ability to get along with other people, their capacity to run in that office, then how are they going to run the system? How are they going to do what is expected of them? How are they even going to do what is required of them? A good story in the Bible, again, because I'm a Christian leader, I reference my leadership from Scripture. In the book of Judges chapter 9, it says that the trees went to look for a leader. I don't know if you've ever heard that story. It's a proverb. The trees went to look for a leader, and they went to the olive tree, to the good trees. All the trees, none of the good trees was there to offer leadership. And then they settled on the thorn tree. And the thorn tree said, if you want me to be your leader, you will find shade under me. How do you find shade under a thorn tree? With all, the thorn tree doesn't have leaves, it only has thorns and all that. The moral of that parable is as simple as this. When good people don't step up for leadership, we have the kind of leadership we have. We get the leaders we deserve. And so we must be able to front good leaders, people who... I will throw in something else to respond to the question that you asked. There are two laws that govern us. There is the law, the written down law, the legal law, where we are saying if you do this, this is wrong. If you do that, that is wrong. And then there is what is called the moral law, where now we are talking about our conscience. We are talking about our values. We are talking about, it may not be embedded in the Constitution, but it's unacceptable. You know, for example, and a bit by and by, the Section 6 of our Constitution tries to address the issue of the moral law, where we are saying if there are certain things that affect the section of our Constitution that talks about integrity, there are certain aspects of a leader that if it is called out, then we can't have you hold public office. That's the reason why when a leader is impeached, for example, through a process, the moral law means your integrity has been put to check and it has failed, and you have been sent out of office. It simply means then you don't qualify to come back to lead a nation. But I'm still hearing stories here and there of people who we know they have been impeached and they are vying for office, but that we will allow the voters to decide that. But you see, it is still speaking on this person's capacity to manage a system. Because if there is a question, because the fifth thing was actually integrity in my 5 pillars of how do we...
So it's competence,
character, capacity,
chemistry, and integrity.
If we have that marking scheme, we stand a better chance of getting good leaders than just putting people there because they can afford the campaign trail.
Okay, we have something to cover. Systems exist to deliver services, and I will want you to weigh in on that, because if systems are failing, then services won't be delivered. Systems exist for a reason, and broken systems, it means there will be nothing delivered to the people. That is, now we are moving towards understanding that the dangers of systemic failure.
Systems are very interesting. There is a tension that must be created, a push and pull, where systems are created to serve people. But if you don't serve the systems, they will not serve the people. So it's a loop where when we put people in office, our expectation is they will serve the system. they will serve the system, because a system that is running in the way that it should, it does its work to serve the people.
Okay.
And so if we don't create that tension, where our leaders remember the two laws. Our leaders must be able to alternate between moral law and the legal law.
Yeah.
They must be able to move in and out. That is why, for example, the legal fraternity, when you study law, there is you also study religious law. You study customary law. You study law. That the study of that is to take care of the moral component of the coded law. And so, if we have leaders who do not know how to move in between the moral code and the legal code, what happens is they serve one at the expense of the other. And there are some people who lack either. They don't have the competence. They don't even have a clue. And so we have people there who, because they could afford to pay for the campaign trail, they are put there on top of a system, and with a key, they don't know which door it opens. And so when they begin opening doors, they open all sorts of doors.
Okay.
And you realize, like, this one, because it's out there, I will not be peddling rumors. The former governor, who was the governor of Nairobi, because of how he was wired, he had a whole system that he controlled. You know, it was delivering services. Yet, he has been given an office to give oversight over a structured service delivery system.
Okay.
So who was paying for his system? Who was paying for his ambulance system, for his all these things that he had put here on the side? And so we end up taking away from what is established in the system.
Yeah.
We give it to something that is not in the system, and we fund that. And by and by, it is only my friends who will benefit from this one that is mine.
Okay.
By and by, it is only the people who voted for me that will benefit from this one that I've created that is mine. That is a systemic failure.
Yeah. So the systems exist for delivery of services to
For
the
service
people,
delivery to the people.
the people that you are leading there. And that is like we say goals are being achieved. Goals are being achieved. When goals are being achieved, people are happy on the ground. Is it possible to have meaningful service delivery if systems have failed?
It's not possible. There used to be a program on radio many years ago called Linda Punda. I don't know if you ever listened to that program.
I never really listened.
There was a program that used to, somebody was advocating for taking care of donkeys and all that. Okay. That's where we had, at some point, we had donkeys with napkins in Malindi.
Oh.
It came from that drive. If you're not taking care of the hand that is feeding you, by and by, you will have nobody to feed you.
Okay.
The systems are supposed to protect our resources. The systems are supposed to make sure that resources, we said when the system is accurate, there will be correct flow of information, there will be correct flow of resources, there will be correct flow of service delivery and all that. When that system is not working, when there is a misalignment within the system, it simply means then that resources will not flow. There will be a place where resources reach and they don't. Let's look at the procurement process, for example. If you want to procure a road through government or one of the county or national government, you will notice that there are some things that we have tried to address over the years in our nation. Things like kickback, things like corruption, things like cronyism and all that. A failed system I will award my cameraman a tender, not because he has the 5 principles of capacity, competence, and all that. He has my ear. We will compromise on the materials. We'll compromise on this. You will quote double so that then we share what is extra and all that. You see, we don't have a filter through which we run our government. We are using our emotions, if I could use that, and our history and the things that are. When we make the system serve us as the leadership, we fail. Leaders serve the system serve the people.
We are saying systems exist to deliver services.
There you go.
We keep on hearing people say faithfulness should be rewarded. But faithfulness in a place where a leader has created a system to deliver services to the people he leads, that faithfulness, actually, we are just within the system, but we are trying to, look critically at some of the words that are said. Because we also live in a nation where people get rewarded, but get rewarded for the wrong faithfulness, if so to speak.
When you say faithfulness must be rewarded, we must qualify faithfulness to who?
That is where I'm going, and that is where I want to throw to you. Because if we have created systems to deliver services, the person we are calling faithful, are we calling them faithful because they are working towards delivery of those services, achieving of those goals, or because they are just loyal and faithful to one individual person, or even loyal to the leader and faithful to the leader? I want you to use this statement and explain.
I'm going to use that statement.
Yes.
Because I get agitated when we talk about that. The biggest insult we give to the population is that oath of office. It is an insult to the population because we stand in front of people, take an oath of office, we swear allegiance to the Constitution, we swear allegiance to the people, then the following day we appoint our friends. The following day we begin to cut corners. Yes. The following day we are on a plane going to cut multinational deals with the multinational so that something can come into our offshore accounts as we come on our way back to the country. Okay. We swear allegiance, we take oath of office, and then we take bribes, we take kickbacks, we take oath of office, and then we don't deliver on what we promised. And then 5 years down the line, we actually have the audacity and the boldness to come and say, please elect me. Yet we are looking back at your previous 5 years and we don't know what you are doing in that office at all. We know of people who I remember I never got to know who was my MCA until much later when somebody I know vied for office, because people would come, get elected and disappear. And so when boundaries were adjusted in my area and all that, we were able to get a certain kind of leadership. It's an insult, honestly, because people are rewarded for being faithful, not to the system, not to the population, but they are faithful to the person who is at the helm. You campaigned for me, so come and be the chair of the CDF. Look, we don't even look at character. We have had interesting people running CDF accounts, honestly. We've had interesting people running even school boards and all that.
Even running ministries.
And in fact, in ministry is worse. Chronism is one of the worst things in ministry.
Okay.
Look at the last poster you saw, and you will see a very common denominator. We are either from the same umbrella or this or that. We don't ask ourselves the most important question, which is, what problem am I solving with this activation that I'm doing here? If I want to address, for example, I want to address poverty in one of the slums around here. How am I going to approach it? You'll realize I will come like the missionaries used to come from the nations. They come with food and all that. They give us, then they go. A simple thing like just going to that slum and finding who are the people who we can talk to. They can tell us the issue. So that before we bring food to the slums, probably they need a medical camp. Probably they need all that investment to rent one room for a daycare center, so that the children can be taken care of as the mothers go to the street to sell mboga. We'll have equipped that slum more than giving out free food or things like that. And so and again, one of the culture, one of the things, especially in Kenya, I don't see this in many other cultures. in Kenyans, we really love free things, and that's something that we need to deal with in our culture. And it's one of the symptoms of a failed system.
This kind of rewarding friends, rewarding people that supported you, might have led us to systemic failure.
Let us look at the loop again. The loop is we created the systems so that we can have service delivery. Systems are as good as the people we put in the systems.
Okay.
And so at the end of an election year, fresh from the elections, instead of looking at competence against the office I'm putting, I'm looking at proximity. I'm looking at loyalty. I'm looking at how many votes this person brought me. So I end up with somebody who is good at campaigning.
So we lose completely the picture of service delivery, and we are here playing survival games.
There you go. We end up with somebody who is a very good mobilizer, a campaigner, somebody who knows how to make meetings, but the office that you are putting them in does not need somebody to campaign. It needs somebody who is strategic, somebody who can be able to run systems. And so you have somebody who cannot be able to do what you are asking them to do. The system will fail if you do that.
Okay. And we miss those days of the former president, Mwai Kibaki. You remember those days that there was a search throughout the land for technocrats.
There you go.
Because they were looking for the right people to uphold a system for service delivery. Where did we lose that?
I go to the political parties. I love looking at manifestos and their promises and all that. We have very good people who write very good documents in Kenya. People write very good documents.
Good document writers.
But those documents, they never see the light of the day. And so we end up with a good document, a good party manifesto, which works very well for them when they're looking for money outside there. But when it comes now to the ground, what is written down in paper never sees the light of the day. If I stopped an average Kenyan and asked them even what is the ruling party right now, maybe I don't think I will get more than 40% who know what the ruling party is and what they stand for and what they advocate for. I'm sure even if I asked my cameraman who is their MCA, they may know their MCA, but do they know what party they come from? They may not know. And so we already have this problem where, like I said, when we listen too much to the ground, actually we'll also have a failed system because we get the leaders we deserve. And if we have a population that is used to handouts, a population that does not filter their leaders when they elect, we will also end up with bad leaders. And so the system should also create an avenue for getting good people into the system. And that means educating the people. Civic education is also something that should be addressed.
Two very important things, even as we now begin to conclude. You don't need to tell anybody that a system is failing. You just need to look at service delivery.
Service delivery.
Have we agreed on that one?
We agree on that.
So if services are not delivered, systems are failed.
That's true.
If the national goals are not being achieved, the national vision is not being achieved, systems are failing.
That's why somebody would wake up one morning and say, we are now going this way. I look at developed countries and what they do. Every time somebody is vying for office, the filter is, where do we want to go as a nation?
Okay.
No, don't tell us where you want to go. That's your problem. Tell us this is where we are going. Where are we going? And how are you moving us closer to our goal?
Yes.
But the minute you come here and tell us your stories, and we elect you, you will follow your stories. I asked a question and I still ask, what happened to Vision 2030? It was an amazing document that if we had given it, it's now give or take 15 years, maybe going to 20. If we had been working towards that document today, this nation would have been different.
And some of these things that our leaders promise us, they will remain a mirage as long as when you get to the office, you don't establish a good watertight system that is able to channel the promises and the things that you said in your manifesto it will never work. But very quickly as we close, how can we address, how do you address systemic failure? How can you correct it?
Accountability. Accountability. We must demand accountability from the leaders we put in place. And again, on the part of the electorate, and that also goes even to now leadership where you know, like for example, if I take the leadership in church as a good example, unless the governing body, the oversight body of a particular church community has a framework of how it elects its leaders. You see, with the church, there are some very interesting dynamics. I go out, I plant a church, I use my resources, I use whatever. And so I have a certain level of ownership that kuna umanga, you know, where this thing is mine. I reinvested my time, my resources, my networks and all that. How do you want to tell me how to regulate? And so there's a place of, in the place of the church is self-regulation. That's why a church must have a council of elders and things like that. That is a system for accountability. That is a system that would make a church not go above board. You will, the things we are seeing, the Shakaolas of this world, amongst others, it's because there's no accountability structure within those communities. Communities that have accountability structures, it's rare to find things like that. And so that can be transposed also to government. What are the accountability structures? Who puts the people in office accountable? The Constitution helps us to do that. We can recall a leader within a year or two, but do the population know that those structures are supposed to keep the people in the straight and narrow? So our accountability structures must be strengthened. Where if I am a good advocate for accountability, it also helps me as a leader. A leader who is not accountable is a danger to himself and to the people around them. Because you become this leader who is larger than life. That's dangerous.
Well, we must come to the end of our discussion today. The topic that we embarked on today is understanding systemic failure. And one of the things that is coming out so strongly today is that you don't have to say there's systemic failure or there is no systemic failure. Just go and see whether the services that were promised are being delivered. If what is supposed to be done for the people is not being done for the people, the system is failing and it will not be able to help. And then we have seen also the enemies of the system. If you begin to appoint cronies and begin to look for your own personal survival rather than the survival of the nation or the county or the church where you are leading, then you have missed it because you are building yourself instead of building the people, the nation, the entity that you are leading. And God needs to help us, and we will have another time to delve even deeper about understanding systems and dealing with the systemic failures. And I'm afraid we can see one or two systems that are broken, because like now, if we say we want to fight corruption and the top person will say we are finishing corruption, and on the ground police are busy receiving bribes on the roads, what do you call that? The leader says we are fighting corruption. On the ground, even electricity cannot be connected to you unless you have coughed something. You cannot be given birth certificate unless you have coughed something.
The system is
then what do we call that?
There's a friend of mine who traveled to a country in West Africa, and he presented his documents, which had been checked at the consulate here, which they were okay, but when they arrived at the airport, they told their documents are not complete. And he was detained for almost 3 hours until somebody came and whispered to his ears and said, the pages that are missing are dollars. You need to add a few dollars here for the passport to be, for your documents to be complete.
That is what is not complete.
He was told the documents are not complete.
And corruption is the greatest enemy of the system.
It is.
Any system that encourages corruption and kickbacks it will not deliver goals and results to the people. We need to pray for our country. Final comments?
My final comment is we get the leaders we deserve. We get the leaders we deserve. Because if we don't use filters to elect leaders, we will get a failed system. Nobody can lead beyond their capacity.
Right.
Nobody can lead beyond their capacity. So if we are electing leaders, please let us check. Let us check at history. Let us check at these people. Where are they coming from? If they have money, it is considered wisdom to understand where that money came from. Because how they got the money, however you get a thing is the way you sustain it.
Okay.
So if somebody has money and we don't know how they got it, they will sustain it in the same dubious ways they got that money. And so as a population, we get the leaders we deserve. Let us have filters as we are electing our leaders.
All right, as we close, 2 comments from Reverend David Ogwom, and I think he followed through. He's saying systemic failures in leadership are often a result of bad leadership, which undermines team or organizational success through behaviors like unclear vision, poor communication, and blaming others. Quite on point, Reverend Ogwom. And he's saying, thank you for this robust conversation on leadership. God bless you, Reverend Kavoy and Reverend Alan. Thank you so much. And to all our viewers, we just say bye-bye. We'll meet you again on Friday to engage on leadership conversation. And from all of us here, it is bye-bye and thank you.
God bless you.